We're going back to our panel of questioners now, and the next question, the second question, is coming from John Devereux.
I'll direct this first to Mr. Hellyer. Mr. Hellyer, after years of fiscal restraint, the federal government has a budget surplus. Some say it's time to increase public spending. Some say it's time to cut taxes, and some say pay down the debt. What is your party's emphasis in the great budget debate?
I think the most important thing by far is to get Canada up and running again, to make sure that our healthcare system is once again, as it once was, the best in the world, to make sure that our education system is once again as good as any in the world, to get our environmental standards up to the point where we can really be proud of them, to increase our research and development so that young Canadians will have more opportunity here than anywhere else in the world, to replace our infrastructure across the country, to replace worn-out sewers, worn-out bridges, to twin the Trans-Canada Highway, and to do great things to make Canada great again. And this is what we did after World War II, and it worked just absolutely superbly. And if we do all of these things, then the economy will continue to grow robustly. We can get the unemployment rate down closer to what it was in the early post-war years. We think it should be down to 4%. And if that happens, there will be lots of additional revenues to both reduce taxes and pay off the debt.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hellyer. Mr. St. Maurice, on the budgetary question.
Regarding bringing down taxes and paying down the debt and funding our failing social safety nets, we feel that legitimizing and bringing into the legitimate economy some $20 billion spent every year on the black market for marijuana will certainly contribute to increasing these surpluses. We also feel that redirecting all of this wasted money that's being spent for police, courts, justice, prisons, everything that surrounds this industry of prohibition, if that money was also taken out of there and funneled into other social services, we'd have enough to do all of these three things, to cover those three priorities. We really have to ask ourselves a question in society when there's a 6 or a 12-month waiting period for open heart surgery, but if you have 3 marijuana plants in your backyard, someone phones the police, they'll have a dozen squad cars, paperwork, and all of those expenses. So why are we wasting money there when it could be served for much more constructive projects in our society?
Thank you very much. And now Sandra Smith.
Well, our party's program is entitled Stop Paying the Rich, Increase Funding for Social Programs. And I think the main problem with this whole debate about taxes versus more investments into social programs and the whole issue of the surplus is that it's really a lot of disinformation. First of all, we shouldn't even be talking about the surplus because, first of all, what about the entire budget expenditures? $17 billion in this country are spent through patronage spending. It wasn't just the human resources patronage scandals. All the ministries are given these funds. And who decides how these things are spent? The direction of the economy. And this really is the main question. And then Canadians get caught up in discussing about the surplus, and we should fight over that. The main issue is the direction of the economy in this country.
Thank you very much, Ms. Smith. Ashley Deans, the Natural Law Party's position on the budget.
It's very fortunate today that Canada has a surplus, but it's very unfortunate that people still continue to suffer in Canada. The Natural Law Party's programs are designed to reduce suffering by reducing stress in the individual and collective consciousness. As suffering begins to decrease, then we'll see, for example, in the healthcare system, which really isn't a healthcare system at all, it's a disease care system, where we spend $86 billion a year, that the Vedic approach to health has been found to decrease disease by over 50%. This would free up another $40 billion, which itself could be added to the surplus, and then we would begin to pay down the national debt, and we would reduce taxes to a flat rate of 15% for all Canadians and eliminate the GST. The Natural Law Party feels that taxation is unnatural to life. It's a pinch to life, and we want people to be able to grow rich, and then when they are rich, to be able to remain rich. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Figueroa, your response to the budget question.
Well, first of all, in order to discuss the question of the surplus, we first have to go back and look at the deficits and the debt problem as it emerged in the early 90s. StatsCan did a study in 1993 that showed that the two main causes of the growing deficit and the debt were, first of all, the high interest rate policies that were pursued by both the Liberal and Conservative governments, mostly to the benefit of the banks and speculators for a number of years. And secondly, the loopholes that were given to corporations, in particular tax loopholes, which reduced government revenue. Now we have a surplus, and that surplus has been taken out of the pockets of Canadian workers. Over $8 billion of EI funds, for instance, have been transferred into general revenues that, meanwhile, over two-thirds of the unemployed can't even access their benefits when they're laid off through no fault of their own. That, combined with the cuts to health care and to public education, post-secondary education, is really the theft of wealth of the Canadian people and being transferred increasingly to the bankers and to the rich. So we certainly oppose that and would call for that money to be put back into the public sector.
Thank you very much. And our final speaker on this budgetary round is Dr. Russo.
We have to really examine where the surplus has come from and the fact that the social and environmental costs have never been factored in. It's been built up as a result of failing to ensure that there's environmental protection and also in reducing the transfer payments over the years. What we did was an analysis of the Treasury Board estimates to find out what each department actually spends, because that's the only way it's possible to really criticize the government. And we did a diagram all in one page to show where the government spends money. And then what we called for was redirection and relocation of funds. This is what needs to be done. We have to find out where the government spends money. And just to use an example, rather than spending $2 billion promoting genetically engineered foods and crops, that money could be put into promoting organic agriculture with a fair and just transition program for affected communities. Billions of dollars have been put into the supporting the civil nuclear energy. That money should be put into promoting environmentally sound energy alternatives. So we went through the budget to show how we could move away from this comedy of errors where we commit an error, we try to rectify it, and we're still caught up in this cycle.
I must say, in terms of keeping to the allotted time, you people are miles ahead of the other 5 party leaders so far, so stick to it. Now,